Welcome to the Boolean and Java part 3. We're going to roll through this quickly. We're going to go to the play game method. Okay, let's scroll down. You should have got all that. We're scrolling, and here we are at the play game method. It's pretty short. It just goes from lines 94 to 108 on my code. Yours will probably be a little bit different. Everybody does things differently. So again, it's public static int. Hopefully you figured out what static means by now. If you haven't, you might want to go check the internet. Maybe I'll tell you in the next video if you're real patient. Okay, play game. It's going to be returning an integer value. Okay, it's returning an integer value. Down here, we just print out, it says, here we go. You're getting ready to play the game. And then we have a for loop. Okay, so the for loop is going to initialize I to 1, and then as long as I is less than equal to 1, we're going to say I plus plus. Okay, and this is based upon the variable rounds, which was public, which was set up in the previous method. Now some people are thinking, hey, you should have made a variable that was local to this method. Your data is going to bleed. There could be errors. I know. Okay, I'm not trying to sell the software to a major client. Okay, I'm just trying to make a computer science video for high school students, or maybe middle school students, or possibly elementary school students. You never know who's watches. Or maybe college students, okay? Or maybe adult students, or possibly some other type of student that I'm not quite aware of, which I don't know what kind of student it would be, you know. Anyhow, so we're printing out the question number. We're concatenating I, okay, because I starts at 1, so question 1. This is going to go to the total number of rounds. And here we say if the question generator, or excuse me, question gen method, if that's true, then we're going to print out these lines of code. We'll print out that is true for number, whatever. We'll add a point to score by, adding 1. And then we're going to come down here and tell them that their score is such and such. Okay, and we're going to do that all the way through the for loop, right? So no questions about that. Or if you're paying attention, I never talked about this method, did I? Okay, the question generator is another method that comes down here and generates the questions. Okay, this is where the magic of the program takes place. And this is where you'll probably spend a lot of your time on the extension, on kind of altering the game and making it a little bit different, or at least I presume. One last thing before we leave the play game method here is that once the for loop is done running, okay, we return 1. Okay, remember we had to say return an integer. Okay, I'm just returning 1 back to the program right, whoa, where'd it go? Right there. Okay, so we're just returning 1 back to here. Okay, so it gets a value. I don't do anything with the value. I'm just returning it out just because that's what I do. Okay, so if you put public static void play game, okay, it's not going to return anything. That's going to alter the pacing of the game. By returning an integer value, I control the pace of the program up there. Or at least I do in my imagination. All right, next question gen right here. It's a public static Boolean. It's returning a Boolean value. Okay, it's going to return the Boolean value to this if statement right here. Okay, so this will return a Boolean value to this if to determine if it's true that they got the answer correct to print out this information. And it's going to do that for every time we run through each iteration of this for loop. Now let's see what's going on down here. This is a little bit more complex than the other ones. So the question gen, it starts off by having correct answer set to false. And I believe we set that to false at the very beginning, right? Yeah, we set the false right up here. Okay, I probably could have not set the false again, but it's important that actually I do need to set the false. The reason I set the false because each time this question gen gets generated, we want them to not have a correct answer. They don't get the correct answer until they enter the correct answer. So until they have proved themselves to answer correctly, they are going to be considered false. They are not correct. Scanner, we got a new scanner for input 1 right here, and we're going to also, this is cool, we're using the random class. Whoa, man, doggone it. And we're making a random variable, well, not a random variable, a random class variable called random1. I guess it's not, yeah. Anyhow, so random1 will use the random class. And here, what we're doing is we're passing in, and we're using this integer method, and we're using a parameter of 2. And what's going to do is it's going to get a random number that's 2 digits, and it goes from 0 to 1. Okay, 0 to 1. I should probably put that in a note. So it goes to 0 to 1. If I were to put, say, 5, okay, it would go from 0 to 4. Now, you've probably seen this in other lessons where we talked about this with the random class. Right now, I'm not going to get into the details because this works perfect, and you will manipulate this later on. Now, what I do with the next part is we use the random, okay, which was, 1 or 2, and then we say next int, okay. So what we're doing is we're calling the random next int method again, and the range for the values it can select, we're taking 25 and multiply it by the difficulty. The difficulty was an integer value set up right here when we had them enter a 1 or a 2. So what we're doing is just to kind of make this real cut and dry on increasing the difficulty. So if they put a 2 in for the difficulty, that means this will be 2 times 25, which gives us a potential amount of 50, okay, numbers in the range to get assigned to this variable called variable 1. And the same thing for variable 2 right here. If they put 1 in for the difficulty, it would be 1 times 25, which gives us a range of 25, which lowers the amount of difficulty because these are all going to be math questions that you'll see in a second. Did I mention that yet? They're taking a math test? Whatever. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Now, why did I pick 25? I just picked it because I thought, well, that's kind of an easy number everyone can multiply in their head based upon the difficulty right here. Now, you can do all sorts of different stuff with this. This was just kind of a strategy I made up on the spot to get a real simple generation of random numbers for the variation of the difficulty that the user picks. Once that takes place, we come down to this first if condition and we check to see what type of question value this variable has. Okay, we set this random number right up here on line 118, okay, and if question type was set to a 0, okay, if that's true, it's set to 0, then here we're going to do an addition problem, all right? If the question type was 1, then we'll come down here to this portion under this if-else block. If it's 1 right here, we're going to do a subtraction, okay? So question type is going to be where the number gets randomly generated. So the user could get an addition or could get a subtraction problem, not based upon difficulty, just based upon randomly selecting what kind of math question they'll get. Here's where the difficulty is selected on 119 and 120 from that random number generation based upon 25 times the difficulty value that they selected in the previous method, in the previous video, in a previous life. Down here, first thing we do is we take our 2 random variables that got declared right here and we add them together. That's our answer. Then we tell the user, what does this number plus this number equal? We use concatenation right there. Down here on line 126, we get the user information entered. Again, extension activity. There's a try-catch block for this area right here. Oh, I put a note right up here. I'm just telling that if the type for the question type, if it was 1, it's subtraction, type 2 is division, and type, should be type 3 for the modulus questions. Okay, that's just kind of a note. You'll see that in your rubric, but again, it's right there in case you need an idea where it's located. Down here, if the user attempt is equal to the answer, okay, that means what they entered is equal to this. We set the correct answer to true. If it's not true, we set it to false, and then we return the value, correct answer, okay? Since we're returning right here within this if block, this basically means this entire method shuts down because we return the correct answer. and it sends the correct answer back up to here. If we say we got it right, this is true, then we'll perform this action right here. If it was false, nothing will happen, and this if block right here will just move on to the next line of code, which is essentially either the for loop keep running or nothing after that. Down here, so we're checking to see if the question type is equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, let's say it's equal to 1, question type is 1. We skip through this block of code, we come down here, and we use the else if, right click. My big fingers are clicking on the right button. Okay, so we're saying else if question type equals 1, then we perform the actions right here, same logic, where we subtract. And when you do your extension, again, you will also need to keep building upon this algorithm here, where we'll have question type equals 2, then we'll perform division, and then we'll also perform the modulus. Okay, it'll get a little bit trickier once you do the division, because remember, they're entering integer values. Okay, so keep that in mind when you do the division. Okay, because they will be integer values. So you're going to think of how you're going to get around that with knowing if they entered in the correct division answer. And again, each one of these blocks will return the correct answer back to the method that was calling it, or excuse me, the location where the method was called, which was right up here on line 100 in this if condition. Okay, and we also on line 146 we return correct answer just in case it got all the way through these if blocks without getting into this section right here, so that way we don't have an error where the Boolean value is not returned. Okay, just kind of a safety net. And then once the program finishes running, this piece of code will be complete and the game will end. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that is the entire program right there. Okay, so make sure you slow it down, copy all those pieces of code, rewatch the video if you need to, look at the extension exercises. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to show you. I think you'll have a good grasp of Boolean to get you through the AP exam or any sort of basic programs you make inside Java or even possibly C#. Look for my Unity videos and for future releases here. All right, my name is Ryan. Thanks for watching. And you know what? There's one thing you could do if you really were curious, you want to build on this, if you want to set up a separate type of game that takes different types of answers, maybe like say maybe you want a multiple choice exam or something like that. Here you could use a similar strategy with these pieces of code, and you can call another method. You can say multiple game, I should say multiple choice game. We could call the multiple choice game method, and you would have to go down here and create it below this, and once this game finished running, it would call this one right here. Okay, so there's all sorts of different possibilities. You'd have to create that method down here. That's not part of your extension exercise. That's there just in case if you want to. I haven't really gone into the best strategy for making multiple choice games, so if I was you, I would explore some different options there and maybe look into switch statements. We didn't cover those in this lesson, but those will be in another lesson that you will see here in the near future. There was one thing I forgot, to run the program so you can see what it looks like. I can't believe I forgot that. So I'm going to enter my name, my age. We'll say I'm feeling pretty positive about myself, so let's pretend I'm 21 again. That's a lie. There we go. How many rounds do you want to play? Let's play 3 rounds. Difficulty 1, easy. Okay, 2 plus 16. I think I can get this. All right. So let's scroll up real quick. Where are you? There you are. Okay. Just quickly go through what happened there. Age, rounds, my name, age, rounds, difficulty. Then here's the printout. There's question 1. What does such and such equal? I enter my value. Mine appears in orange when I enter in through the scanner here on my console. You can change these colors through your preferences and your settings, no matter what the ID is that you use. Right here told me I was true. My score is 1 because it's adding 1. Next question, 16 plus 2. That's kind of weird. It was 2 plus 16. Now it's 16 plus 2. Let's say I get it wrong. Press enter, and then question 3 comes up, and I get it right, and it says your score is 2. Okay, let's try this again. Run, whoops, tab. Let's say I'm 40R. Oh, doesn't like that. Let's put an emoji in. Boom, doesn't like that. 42, how many rounds I want to play? Let's say 2. Difficulty, D. Oh no! Exception thread main, input mismatch exception. That's one of the extensions you'll perform, so that doesn't happen. Okay, so that's what the error looks like. That's why we're stopping right there. Okay, let's run this. I think that pretty much runs it all right there. Okay, that gives you a good idea of what's taking place. I can't think of anything else in there that you really need to see. One item that I've been talking about, but I never really touched upon, was how come all these methods have to be declared as static. Okay, the reason is because, one, it's in a class, the Boolean game engine, that has a static main method. Okay, this is the first thing that the Java looks for when it starts running your programs. Okay, so all these have to be static, okay, if they're being called out of the main method here. Now watch this. If I get rid of static, watch what happens. Let's say I run it, it's going to give me a nasty message. It's like Java is shaking its finger at me, its index finger, and it's really disappointed in me. It's sad. It's scolding me here. Okay, it's just screaming. This is terrifying. Okay, so line 21, which is actually where it's called, but we know the error's down here. Okay, it's saying non-static method game setup cannot be referenced from a static context. Okay, there's ways around this, but I'm not going to get into it because the goal of this program was to, or it was static. What in the world is that? Okay, static. Okay. So the goal of this program is to show you Booleans, but there are ways around this, especially if you create an object of the class and call the method through the object. Then you can get rid of static, but that's just kind of some Java trickery, and we don't want to get into that right now. Main thing is you got this program working. You saw some of the reasons we had the try-catch blocks inside there. You saw some different uses of the Boolean, nothing super complex. Keep watching these videos. Make sure you smash that like button. Smash it like you never smashed it before. So just smash it, okay? Make sure you subscribe. I'll keep you posted on new videos coming out. I really appreciate you watching. You can do this stuff. Just keep practicing programming, and we'll see you in the next video.